even reacting to what you said earlier. You have just introduced the audience and to us. I was demurely listening, and you were waxing lyrical. I agreed with it all, saying it's wrong for UKIP and the Conservatives to make immigration the sole purpose of Brexit. You just said that, right? And you were right to criticise it. Well, if you believe that, why did you vote with UKIP and the Conservatives yesterday? It was the biggest vote of a generation in Parliament yesterday. It's one of those votes which will overshadow politics for years to come. For years and years to come. You represent a constituency where thousands of young people wanted a different future. You had a choice, and I find it astonishing that you've come off the train from London today, fresh off that vote, and sanctimoniously told us all that they're wrong. You've just given them your vote. You've just given them your support. It wouldn't have happened if Labour had stood up with it for its values, and if the 47 Labour MPs, your colleagues, had been joined by people like you. Then young people like this wouldn't be facing the Brexit future they now face and don't want.
It wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been alongside other politicians clamouring for a referendum on the European Union, which was not the right way to resolve this issue. The vote that we faced yesterday was extraordinarily difficult. It came after a referendum in which the people of this country had decided, albeit close, albeit on the back of a campaign in which there were untruths used, whether it's from the NHS to other issues. But the decision we had yesterday, and it comes at a time when democratic values are at risk by some dark forces, and you see it across the Atlantic at the moment. Imagine what would have happened if, after a vote of the people of this country to say that they wanted to leave the European Union, Parliament had overturned that decision. Because what would have happened was that Theresa May would have immediately called a general election.
So that's the reason.
Hang on a second. On the basis,
that's the real reason.
On the basis of who governs this country. The people, or that elite parliament, in the sort of terms that the Daily Mail have ramped up. Who governs this country? And she and the Brexiteers would have put themselves at the heart of that argument, proclaiming to be on behalf of the people. And that could only have driven us to an even harder Brexit and unleashed some very dark forces. So don't misrepresent that argument, Nick. You were the one that started this.
Well, I really have to say, Paul, that both what you just said and what you said in the blog this afternoon, I think it is really disturbing, because you're saying, we can't have a general election because we can't trust the people. And I believe in democracy. I believe in referendums. We had a very bad referendum. That was the fault of David Cameron, who called an undemocratic referendum that was basically conducted over a 6-week period that excluded 16 and 17-year-olds from the vote, and that excluded EU citizens who'd made their lives here from having a vote in that referendum. So the problem is not the idea of the referendum, the problem was the way the referendum was conducted. And I also think, Paul, it's really disturbing that you're saying, we've got to do anything we can to make sure we don't have an election. Well, I want an election. I believe we should have an election, because what we don't have is any direction on what direction Brexit should be taking. I'm not saying ignore the referendum vote, but what we were basically told in the referendum...
Well, you are. I'm sorry. Those people that said that Parliament should not have voted to trigger Article 50 were saying ignore the referendum vote.
Perhaps you'll allow me to continue. Thank you. We had no direction of what kind of Brexit came to the referendum. The Leave campaign presented no kind of manifesto. If there was anything at all that was written on the side of the bus that was about the NHS, and we all know it was a lie. So people voted Leave for all kind of different directions, all kind of different reasons. So we have no democratic direction on what direction Brexit should take. It's like basically you've been told from Sheffield, go and drive north. There's no direction on how far you go or what direction you go in. You might end up in Blackpool, you might end up in John O'Groats, you might end up in Edinburgh. Because we don't have any democratic decision on what that referendum vote means, we actually need to have an election. We need to debate what it means. Now, I'm afraid what the Labour Party has done, what you have done as the Shadow Minister for Brexit, has given a blank cheque to Theresa May. Theresa May is saying we are going for a hard Brexit. That's what the White Paper sets out today. free movement, because that is what we're going to focus on, is immigration. Now, not supporting Article 50 yesterday, as 47 of your Labour colleagues didn't, as indeed, for example, Rachel Maskell in York, she chose to rebel bravely, stood down from her shadow cabinet post, because she said there's no protection, environmental protection, there's no workers' rights protection, what the Tories are offering is not good enough. So, voting against that motion yesterday was not defying the referendum. It was saying we are not going to accept the Tories, Theresa May, undemocratically imposing her idea about what Brexit should be. There are lots of different possible Brexit. Let's not back Theresa May's one.
Spencer, what do you think is Theresa May's Brexit?
Politics is a complicated business, isn't it? A few thoughts, if I may. If you believe in democracy, whether you like binary choices, referendums, you have to accept that the members of Parliament, we have some members of Parliament here, voted in support of having that referendum. It was a binary choice. You come up, frankly, I'm not a supporter of referendum. I think they are disastrous. And I think a lot of the mess that we're in is because of the binary choice. But we are where we are. So we have to accept that for many people, perhaps not many people in the city of Sheffield, but many people across our country, they have grave concerns about what is happening in our country. I'll give you one little recent example. I was up at there's a small matter of a by-election in Copeland. I've never been to Cumbria. Firstly, I was shocked by how long it took me to get there, 4 hours from Sheffield. When you get there, it's an extremely isolated place, and everyone that I met there, whether they were Labour supporters, didn't meet many Lib Dems, Conservative supporters, some independent people, frankly, they were very angry. And they felt that their vote had actually counted in the referendum for the first time. Now, I don't give an opinion on that because that is their view. They've got concerns about their hospital services. If you need a hospital in Copeland and you have to go from Whitehaven, it's 38 miles to Carlisle. Here, we're very fortunate. We've got great healthcare facilities. So I think we have to accept where we are. I must join the Labour debate in so much as all I would say is I have respect for the 47 Labour MPs who went against the whipped position and voted with their conscience. I think, frankly, there was an opportunity for the opposition to be an opposition, but that is for the opposition to decide how they take things forward. Immigration, ladies and gentlemen, is a big issue for voters in this country. It doesn't go back to the fact that they do not want people to come into this country. We do need people to come into this country, lots of people, and there's a discussion about how many people should come in. I would say to you, it's about fairness. It's about when I take my school trip, I'm also a school teacher, to New York to see Mr. Trump and his not-so-happy friends, and I do not support the ban as a Conservative. I believe you judge people by their actions, not by the country they come from, or the colour of their skin, or their faith. You judge them by what they do. But when I go to America with my 25 students, I have to fill in a visa application. I have to explain why I am in that country. And I think we need to get to a situation in our country where we do have those very basic controls. As an NHS governor of a fantastic 5-hospital trust, 16,000 employees, we desperately need, as has been expressed by colleagues, people, good people to come from other countries. And we have to accept that. We have to have a discussion about how people come into the country, what visas they need, etc., etc. But we are where we are, and we've got to move forward from what is frankly a mess. It's a big mess, but we've got to make the best of it and move forward.
But I'd like to thank you very much for being here.